What if I told you that the moments that nearly broke you were the very moments that built you? That the pain you cursed was secretly shaping the person you were meant to become? We all live our lives in a relentless pursuit of ease, praying for comfort. But comfort rarely teaches. It is hardship that does. It humbles you, strips you bare, and in that nakedness, you find truth. Most people pray for life to be easy. The Stoics prayed for the wherewithal to be tough. They didn't beg the gods to make the storm disappear, but instead to give them the wisdom to navigate through it, because they knew that struggle is not a punishment, but a purification. When everything falls apart and the noise vanishes, that is when your soul finally has something to say. That is when you begin to see what really matters. Marcus Aurelius was writing during one of Rome's darkest years. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, he said. He wasn't being poetic, he was surviving. He watched empires crumble and still chose calm. He didn't call his hardships curses. He called them fuel. Every obstacle became a forge. Every loss a lesson. We live in a time afraid of discomfort. The moment there is even the slightest setback, people spiral downwards. But pain isn't the enemy. It is the invitation. Whenever life tests your will, it is asking one question. Are you ready to grow? Every sleepless night, every betrayal, every heartbreak is a teacher in rough clothes. You can resist it and stay bitter, or face it and become better. The Stoics saw life's trials as divine craftsmanship. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Think about that. Without challenge, your strength stays asleep. Without resistance, you never learn your own depth. Life uses hardship the way fire uses metal. To temper, to strengthen, to refine. Hard times reveal what comfort hides. You can act like you are disciplined when everything's fine, that you are calm when there's nothing to get upset about, and that you are wise when no one's testing your patience. But when the world caves in on you, masks get incinerated. What remains is real. Fragile, probably scarred, definitely, but real. And it is from that reality that all transformation begins. People speak of blessings like they were wrapped in beauty. Most of them come disguised as disasters. You lose a job and find your purpose. You get betrayed, and you finally learn the boundaries. You fail, and you discover the beauty of humility. The Stoics referred to this as amor fati, the love of fate, not resignation, but life partnership. Whatever happens, make use of it. That was their secret. The comfort of modernity says to move away from pain. Stoicism says to embrace it, not because it feels good, but because it grows you. Every hardship is a mirror that is showing you what still controls you: fear, pride, attachment. When you face it with awareness, those illusions burn away. And what remains is strength, quiet and steady, unstoppable. You see, the universe doesn't waste pain. It recycles it. It takes every fall, every heartbreak, every failure, and turns it into wisdom, if you let it. But most people don't. They numb it, run from it, bury it under distraction. The Stoics chose the opposite path. They sat with the pain, looked it in the eye, and asked, "What are you here to teach me?" When Marcus lost his children, he did not drown in sorrow. He grieved, yet he understood that everything transient must pass. That is not cruelty, that is reality. And in accepting that, he found peace which no comfort could give, because once you stop fighting the nature of life, you stop suffering twice, once for the event and again for resisting it. Hard times teach endurance, but more than that, they teach perspective. They remind you that your control ends at your choices. You can't control the weather, the economy, or other people's behavior. But you can control your response. And that's where your power lives. The Stoics didn't waste energy complaining. They turned every problem into practice, a training ground for virtue. So when you are facing darkness, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What is this moment shaping in me?" The Stoics would say, "It is shaping patience, courage, and clarity. They saw adversity not as interruption, but initiation, the process of becoming who you truly are. And that is why the hard times, as brutal as they feel, are blessings in disguise because they force you to evolve. They reveal capacities you never knew you had. They turn your suffering into wisdom, your weakness into compassion, your fear into freedom. Most people think they need to wait for pain to find them before they learn to endure it. The Stoics didn't wait. They trained for it. They practiced hardship the way warriors practiced combat. Not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they knew comfort was a weak teacher. They fasted when food was plenty. They walked barefoot when sandals were available. They slept on the floor though they owned soft beds. Seneca called it voluntary discomfort. He said, set aside a few days each month to live with less, to eat little, to wear simple clothes, and ask yourself, is this what I feared? That question, is this what I feared, is the heart of Stoic strength. Fear grows in imagination. We imagine how bad it will be, how unbearable, how endless. But when you face it directly, you realize the monster was mostly in your mind. Pain, when accepted, loses half its power. That's why the Stoics practiced meeting hardship halfway. They believed that the best way to prepare for life's storms was to walk willingly into small ones. So when the great storm came, they were already calm. Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, betrayal, and endless war. Yet in his writings, there is no panic, only perspective. If you are distressed by anything external, he wrote, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That is the Stoic gift, the realization that life's weight is felt only through perception. Change the way you see it, and even chaos becomes a lesson. Most people, when faced with hardship, ask how they might escape it. The Stoic asks, what is this here to teach me? That single shift turns pain into power. It stops being punishment, and it starts being preparation, because life will test you, with loss, rejection, failure, not to break you but to polish you. Each difficulty scrapes away pride, impatience, and weakness. The fire doesn't destroy the sword, it forges it. Epictetus was born a slave, crippled by his master. He could have chosen bitterness. Instead, he chose wisdom, he said. Difficulties show what men are. He didn't say they create weakness, they reveal it. They expose the cracks so that you can fill them with strength. When hardship comes, it is not announcing your doom. It is inviting your growth. But only if you are willing to meet it consciously, without self-pity, without running. Most of us resist discomfort so fiercely that we never build the muscle to handle it. We chase constant pleasure and then wonder why the smallest inconvenience feels like the end of the world. The Stoics reversed that formula. They trained in restraint, not indulgence. They knew that the man who can sit quietly in pain becomes unstoppable. He is free, not because life is easy, but because he no longer fears when it is hard. Hard times also purify our relationships. They show you who stands beside you and who disappears when the fire starts. They teach you to value loyalty over popularity, substance over noise. Marcus wrote that a person's true worth is measured not by how they shine when things go right, but how steady they remain when everything falls apart. Hardship exposes masks in others and in yourself. It is painful, but it is necessary, because truth can't grow where illusion lives. To the Stoics, every obstacle presented a moral mirror. Were you patient? Were you kind under stress? Did you act with integrity even when it cost you something? Those were the real tests. They weren't interested in avoiding pain. They were interested in growing through it. That is why they didn't see misfortune as random. They saw it as medicine, bitter at first, healing in the end. Seneca once wrote to his friend Lucilius, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." That sentence alone can change your life because most pain we feel comes from the stories we tell ourselves. This shouldn't have happened. I can't handle this. I'll never recover. But what if you replace those words with, "This is my training"? What if you believe that every challenge was building your inner armor, shaping your future self? That is the Stoic mindset. Not victimhood, but victory through awareness. Hardship also forces you to confront your limits. And that is where real expansion begins. You don't know how strong you are until you are stretched. You don't know how resilient you can be until you are tested. Each trial expands your capacity to endure, to focus, to stay calm when others panic. The Stoic becomes anti-fragile, not just surviving stress, but growing from it. Every blow refines him. Every loss deepens him. Every pain strengthens him. On the surface, a life without hardship is peaceful, but it is stagnation beneath. A muscle that is never used withers. A mind that is never challenged dulls, and a soul never tested stays shallow. The Stoics knew ease breeds weakness, so they didn't pray for soft days. They prayed for strong minds. Marcus said, "The world is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." He knew that you cannot stop storms from coming, but you can stop them from sinking you. That is the hidden blessing in hard times. They ultimately force you to master your inner world when the outer world falls apart. And once you learn that, no hardship can ultimately harm you again. So the next time life throws you into chaos, remember, it is not chaos. It is class. A master class in strength, patience, humility, and clarity. The Stoics would say, don't curse it, don't run, stand still, observe, let it shape you. Because the harder the fire, the purer the gold. The greatest shift that occurs in hardship isn't in your circumstances, it is in your perception. Hardship doesn't just change what you face, it changes the way you see. At first, pain blinds you. All you can see is what you lost, what went wrong, what you wish you could undo. But stay with it long enough, and your vision clears. You start to notice what hardship gave you. The strength you never valued, the patience you never had, the clarity you never sought. The Stoics believed suffering, when endured consciously, reveals truth. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." He wasn't talking about wishful thinking. He was describing mastery. The Stoic doesn't control events. He controls interpretation. When something painful happens, he asks, is this truly bad, or is it simply uncomfortable? That question breaks illusion. Most of what we call tragedy is only transformation in progress. The seed might call the soil its grave, but it is really its womb. The Stoics lived by that paradox. Hardship also strips away entitlement. When everything is easy, you start to think you are owed comfort. But when life hits hard, you remember that everything's borrowed. Every breath, every moment, every gift. You stop insisting that life be fair and start to appreciate that it simply is. That humility isn't defeat. It is waking up, Seneca said. We learn virtue through adversity. He meant that you cannot really practice gratitude, patience, or courage when the world is soft. Those qualities only grow in the wild, only under pressure. Now think of your greatest growth. It didn't happen on your best days. It happened on the days you were cracked open, the nights you couldn't sleep, the moments when you thought you were done. That is where you found out who you really were. That is where your character began to shine through the rubble. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, choosing how you respond when the world doesn't cooperate. The moment you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" you become free. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that is why the Stoics never tried to control the world. They controlled the one thing that they could, the inner voice. When pain came, they didn't waste it. They turned it inward. They transformed it into wisdom. They treated every hardship like a forge, every trial like a mirror. Because inside of each struggle was a lesson in disguise, the loss that taught detachment, the betrayal that taught discernment, the failure that taught persistence. The modern mind avoids that mirror. We distract ourselves from reflection. We scroll, complain, escape, anything but feel. But what we avoid controls us, what we face transforms us. The Stoics chose to face it all, to stand in the fire and let it purify what was false. They knew avoiding pain only delays power. Because power isn't built in peace, it is built in pressure. But hardship recalibrates your values too. When life is good, you are chasing recognition, pleasure, convenience. But when it collapses, you realize what actually matters: inner peace, honesty, love, purpose. The Stoics felt that every adversity clarifies the soul, the same way a storm clears the air. Everything petty gets blown away. What is left is clean and simple and essential. In that sense, pain has a hidden blessing. It returns you to what is real. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the obstacle is the way. He meant that what you resist contains your freedom. The person who betrayed you taught you to trust wisely. The failure that humiliated you taught you humility. The illness that slowed you down taught you to live consciously. Hardship doesn't block your path. It becomes your path. You just have to stop labeling it as bad. The Stoic doesn't divide life into good and bad, only into useful and useless. Everything is useful if you use it well. Pain becomes unbearable only if you believe it shouldn't exist. But once you accept that pain as a part of how life is designed, it becomes manageable. It becomes a teacher. Epictetus said, "Don't wish for events to happen as you want them to. Wish for them to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly." That is not surrender. That is supreme strength. To trust the flow of reality even when it hurts is to live without fear. Every time life knocks you down, it is showing you something about yourself, that you are depending too much on people, or that maybe you are running away from the truth, or that you still have untapped potential. Hardship is the mirror of the soul, and it never lies. You can't fake calm under pressure. You can't fake faith when everything's falling apart. And that is the beauty of it. Hardship strips away performance and leaves only essence. So why are hard times a blessing? Because they return you to authenticity. They burn away the fake confidence and leave you with real self-trust. They silence the noise so you can finally hear your own heart. They remind you that you were never meant to live easily. You were meant to live meaningfully. The Stoics knew that a life without struggle was a life without depth. They chose the mountain, not the meadow, because only at the summit do you see clearly. The next time you are on trial, take a moment to remember that life is not punishing you. Life is preparing you. The pain you experience today is the wisdom that you will share tomorrow. The fire that burns you now will someday be the light on your way. Every struggle holds an unseen gift, though it is only reachable if you cease from running. Sit with it. Breathe through it. Learn from it, because what feels like breaking is really becoming. At some point, when the pain has lasted long enough, something changes. You stop fighting it. Not because you've given up, but because you've grown up. You begin to understand that pain is not always an enemy to defeat, but a messenger to understand. The Stoics called this the beginning of tranquility, when the mind no longer flinches at discomfort, when it finally stops expecting life to be easy. That is where peace begins, not after the storm, but within it. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it." He was teaching that the world doesn't control your peace. Your interpretation does. The same event that breaks one person can awaken another. It is not the event itself that matters. It is the story you tell yourself about it. The Stoic rewrites that story, he says. This is not misfortune, this is opportunity. And in doing so, he reclaims his power. Something miraculous happens when you stop demanding that life remove the pain. The pain begins to purify you. It burns away the false layers of pride and fear and ego, until what is left is simple, still, and strong. For the Stoics, the soul, like metal, had to be refined by heat. Every hardship is that heat, uncomfortable, sometimes unbearable, but necessary for clarity. What you call breaking is often just the sound of the old self shattering, so the real one can emerge. Epictetus said, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do." That is not surrender, it is wisdom. It means to align yourself with reality rather than resist it, because every moment you resist what is, you create unnecessary suffering. But when you accept it, truly accept it, something shifts inside you. You find stillness even in chaos. That is the Stoic's secret, serenity through surrender, not to defeat, but to truth. Think of a river flowing through rocks. The water doesn't fight the stone, it shapes it, slowly, with patience. That is how peace is found, not by forcing life, but by flowing with it. Hard times are the rocks that define your shape. Without them, you'd stay shallow. But because of them, you become deep. The Stoic learns to thank the rock, to bow to the resistance that gave him form. As Seneca once said, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests brave men." What he meant was that hardship reveals your true nature. Anybody can be composed in comfort. But who are you when everything comes crashing down? Who are you when nobody claps for you? When nobody lifts a finger to help, when nobody believes? Then your real strength awakens. Then you meet the part of you which doesn't need conditions to be at peace. Then you become unshakable. You see, when you stop fearing pain, the world can no longer control you. People lose their power to manipulate you. Situations lose their power to disturb you. You become calm not because life is calm, but because you are. That's the hidden blessing in hardship. It forces you to build your peace where no one can take it. Marcus said in his personal journal that everything that happens is fit for you. It is tailored to your growth even when it feels cruel. Life doesn't give random suffering. It gives the exact lessons you need to evolve. Sometimes the lesson is patience. Sometimes it is courage. Sometimes it is letting go. And every time you pass through pain with awareness, you rise cleaner, lighter, stronger. And when you understand this, gratitude blooms in strange places, in loss, in rejection, even in failure. You start whispering thank you to the moments you once cursed, because now you see what they gave you: resilience, humility, depth. Hard times don't steal from you, they reveal you. They take what is not essential so that what is eternal can finally breathe. The Stoics believed the highest form of wisdom was amor fati, to love one's fate.